So next, I'm so excited to be joined by someone that I think has a very unique but very important voice in the recycling and packaging in the pet industry conversation. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Kurt from Engineered Plastics, who served as our recycler and will continue to serve as our recycler through the Flex Forward program. And he's going to be talking to us about what is, the other end of this supply chain and what does this actually look like from a recycling point of view. So good afternoon, Kurt. Thanks for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself to our crowd?
Sure, Melissa. Kurt Daska with Engineered Plastics, plastic recycler out of Erie, Pennsylvania. 40 plus years in plastics. And for me as a plastic recycler, it's really exciting when a group comes to us and starts looking at opportunities and how we actually do this right. And for us, if we can help guide it just makes us part of the process.
Thanks for that introduction, Kurt. So, a couple weeks ago, for those of you who don't know, myself and a colleague at Earth Animal had the privilege to come visit Kurt in Pennsylvania for the recycling trials of our Flex Forward program. Now, we're going to be talking more about this program a little bit later this afternoon as part of our sustainable packaging soiree. But I can say that it was nothing if not a substantial education for myself, at least, as to kind of seeing this side of the packaging supply chain. But we had some challenges and difficulties based on the bags that came in, didn't we, Kurt?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, I think you received that call from me at about what 5 o'clock your time in the morning when I started sorting. So we received two bales, and I started taking these apart. Um, the product was collected in the stores by the consumer, and whenever that's collected by the consumer, you never know what you're going to get. And I think this was a good cross section of what the opportunities and issues are. The one thing is I can tell you that pet owners seem to be very conscious of being sustainable because there's almost zero dog or animal feed in these bags. So that was the high point of it. The issue was I didn't realize how many different types of packaging there are out there for
Yeah.
pets.
Yeah, I took a list, and just based on pictures, I think we got at least 300 or 400 different kinds of bags. Kurt, does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, that sounds about right. After about 20 hours of sorting out 1,600 pounds, I tried to sort it so we can make the best stream to make it recyclable.
So, Kurt, I think people don't really kind of understand recycling and the process works. Can you kind of explain it to us really quick?
What we're doing is we're feeding product, whether we're tipping it onto a conveyor belt or hand feeding it, we feed it on a conveyor belt at 1,000 pounds an hour. So we really don't have the time to sort and segregate it. It goes through a metal detector. The metal detector makes sure we don't get bolts, nuts, screws, anything going through it could damage our equipment. And the one problem is your metallized films will set off my metal detector. At that point, it goes into a cutting chamber where it shreds it, cuts it up. It goes into an extruder, which is a screw that's spinning. It forces the plastic through. We bring it up to about 450 degrees. We run it through a filtration system, then a degassing system, because all the ink that you guys put on for all your artwork has to come off. And then it goes into a pelletizer. Now, the pelletizer is much like your Play-Doh when you were a kid and you made spaghetti out of it. It's the same thing. So we're pushing out spaghetti, we're cutting it, it goes into a water bath, cools, and then we dry it. So at the end, we come out with this beautiful plastic. Again, we're making about 1,000 pounds an hour.
Well, thank you for that description, Kurt. I've also got, just for all of our more visual people, a video of this whole process. So check it out.
That's what's more than usual because we have like
Are there things that pet food manufacturers or brands are putting into their bags that, pose a significant problem when it comes to recycling of the bags?
when we ran this, I think we knew some of the issues. Everything that isn't low density polyethylene, isn't that plastic, is a contaminant for us. So our big concern that I could see was a lot of it was metallized. And as soon as you add that metallizing to it, it degrades the properties where that material is no longer where I can recycle it. It has no value. One of the biggest issues, for our concern for the bad is paper. So if I have a paper dog food bag and you can tell it's paper because if it's terrible for us. So that was one of probably the second biggest issue that we need to eliminate. And the other one is we just don't know what's in there. Do we have PET? Do we have EVOH? And what are the percentages? So our trial was really to say what's hindering recycling and how do we correct this?
So it sounds like if we really had to identify on kind of what are the three most problematic problems in packaging, it sounds like it's going to be bags with some kind of metallized layer or metallized, marketing on the outside, bags with either metal or, excuse me, paper labels or a paper label, or just bags in general that whether that's the zippers or the enclosures or whatever, we can't tell what it's made out of. Does that sound right?
Yeah, if we're working with a base of low density polyethylene, anything that isn't low density polyethylene is a contaminant. So if the closure is a nylon, I think most of the companies are getting away from it. I'm seeing some great designs out there, but not everyone's doing it. And we need to be a clearinghouse of best techniques to have a standardized system. So the bag, whoever's recycling this across the country, they know that if it's a pet food bag, it's a low density polyethylene bag that I can recycle and the recycler can make money on.
Perfect. All right, Kurt. So I think that's really helpful. And honestly, that's information that before our recycling trials a couple weeks ago, I didn't even know. And so I think there's a lot of people out there that also don't know that as well. Flipping that, so we're moving away from the metallized, the paper, and the, a bit only in different kinds of bags. If you could wave a magic wand, give some advice to us, pet food professionals making bags about decisions. How would you design the perfect bag?
We have to design the recycling around existing technology and existing collection. For us, a low density polyethylene bag, a mono material works great for us, and it can be recycled at thousands of facilities around the country. So to make it really simple, we're going to focus on one mono material. It's going to be low density polyethylene, which happens to be the cheapest plastic out there right now, which helps you on cost. We're going to standardize. Everyone's going to do it the same way. We're going to eliminate the things that cause problems that we talked about, the metallized films, the multi-layers, closures.
Yeah, I love that, Kurt. The example that you gave me was soda bottles or water bottles, right?
If if every brand made their own type of water bottle, we would have zero recycling in this country. So we really have to standardize. And it can't be just a few. It has to be the whole industry because if not, it's going to pollute the stream. We're running 1,000 pounds an hour on our equipment, and it's not the largest machine out there. So we don't have time to sort and segregate this. So it really has to come into us clean and standardized. So I know that if I see pet food packaging there, I know what it is. I know I can recycle it, and I know I have demand for it after it's produced.
All right, Kurt. So now we know what not to do with bags and we know what to do with bags. I'd like to close with one kind of more open-ended question. What do you think, in your opinion, is the one kind of misconception about the recycling industry or recyclers that's really impacting kind of the industry as a whole?
If we're looking specifically at the bags, we have to understand that pet food packaging is not going to go in your standard curbside container. That's not going to be going through the MRF. So we have to understand, how it's collected. And a big part of that, is driving it is how it's collected is if it's not profitable, it's not sustainable. So we have to look at the whole program. Is the end value of the material. Once we recycle it, we make that plastic pellet, that 300 million pounds a year. Can we sell it? Does it have value? Why recycle something that has no value? So that's really where we have to come in and designing. So recyclers need to make profit. We have to collect this. It has to be self-sustaining.
Yeah, Kurt, I think you bring up a really good point in that, something that I've been saying for months is that recyclers aren't recyclers out of the goodness of their heart, right? They're a business and you need to be able to stay in business or there's no market for recyclable at all. So thank you so much for chatting. I'm really excited to hear the audience's thoughts and what questions they have. Your insight is so valuable, but it's such an opportunity, right? Of that, if we all work together and we figure out a way to tackle these problems, we can take 300 million pounds of plastic out of the landfill just in the US alone. So thank you again so much, Kurt.
You're very welcome. Love to see the difference we're going to have in 2 or 3 years when this comes to fruition.